Hi, everybody. Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Sitsofe Atsrim, but for the purposes of today, keep it short at Sitso. I'll be your moderator today, and I'm happy to do so. Today promises to be exciting because we're doing something really special on a subject matter that really matters for football and sports as a whole on the African continent. The topic which I'll get to very shortly. But I want to say a very big thank you to you for joining. You can share the link to as many people as you have in your contact list for them to join what would be a very educative and informative webinar. So the African Sports Center of Data Research and Technology presents Football Marketing Webinar. The webinar on the topic, African Football Leagues, a local alternative or a global competitor. That's a big question. The African Football Leagues, are they a local alternative or can we term them as a global competitor? So I've got the best panel that you can assemble on the continent to delve into the issue. And I'll be getting to them very, very soon. But because this is a webinar, let me quickly just lay down some of the ground rules we've got on the webinar today. Not massive, nothing hefty, something which all of us can abide with. Please, if you do not have the microphone, make sure your microphones are mute. And if you want to drop a comment, please do so and dropping them into the comment section. You see that if it's a question or suggestion, we'll be happy to get to them. And then we can all be part of what the discussion will be. So please, if you have the microphone and you join the conference, just do well to put your microphone on mute. Let me run you by what is to be expected today. I've got 3 panel members who are going to be delving into the issues. All of them are going to be taking 4 questions as we go by. So we've got the sessions in 2 sections. The first section, each of them is going to take 2 questions, and then the second section, they're going to take 2 questions as well. There's one general question for them before we wrap up. We are not going to wrap up without getting you, our cherished audience, to share your thoughts or questions to our panel. So by all means, once again, welcome to the African Center of Data Research and Technologies webinar on a subject matter, the African League, local alternative, or the global competitor. All right, then. So without much ado, let me just go straight into introducing 2 guests that we've got for you today. Some of the best brains you've got on the African continent to do justice to the topic that we've got for you here. My first one is a lady who is well versed in the industry and in combining what the sports and what the marketing side is in its business focus in the center. This is what I've got for you. This person I've got here, she has an experience in advertising and media marketing communication executive with a good understanding of the media and also boasts of history of success in event coordination and production management. She has previously served as general manager of ABN and Alpha Limousine Rental. Currently, she is the head of marketing of StarTimes. The name, Mrs. Akofa Djankui Banson. Mrs. Akofa Djankui Banson, can you hear me? Can you meet us on how are you doing?
Hi, Sitcho. I'm very well. I'm happy to join the discussion.
Yeah, great to have you. Exciting to have you on board. This will be fascinating. Really looking forward to it.
Great.
All right, then. So then to my next guest. Remember, I said I have got 3 of them. Then to the next guest that I've got for you. For her, she's a sports business professional with experience in marketing, media and communication, business and brand strategy administration, and content development. She's currently the head of operations at Go.com, Africa's editorial team, where she's involved in management of commercial relationship, delivery of content, project management, as well as management of the operational team. I've got Zarina Bahdur. Zarina Bahdur, yes, how are you doing? Good to see you. Good to have you.
Hi, Sitso. How are you doing?
I'm well. I'm buzzing, as you can see.
Yeah, cool, man. I'm looking forward to this discussion. I think we all have a lot to learn from it.
Fantastic. Can't wait to delve into it. All right, so then, last but by no means the least, an African sports executive and administrator who has been involved in several clubs and international sporting events, most notably in the 2009 FIFA Confederations Cup and the 2010 FIFA World Cup as a deputy tournament director. He was the chief executive officer of one of the leading professional clubs in Tanzania, Simba SC, from 2019 to 2020. While at Simba SC, he gathered the club to Tanzanian Premier League title. He is currently the chief executive officer of Young African. Many would call them Yanga SC. And he is the famous one, Senzo Mbatha, as popularly known. Senzo, good to have you. Good afternoon. Welcome.
Sitso, thank you very much for the kind introduction. And I didn't know that I'm not famous, but yeah, I look forward to engaging. And I'm happy that between me and you, we are able to balance the scales between Akofa and Zarina.
Fantastic. It's one reason why I was excited when ASC, the African Sports Center, did call on us. When I looked at the bill that they had, and I realized we had two ladies who were well versed in the industry. And I realized I was only going to coordinate with you as the other gentleman. I said, oh, true, that is balanced. I'm in for this. I love this, you know. So I was very excited to be on it. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for being on this one. And so everybody who's doing the listening, this is our expert panel, the three of them. For the purposes of the conference, I'm going to go with the first names. So we've got Akofa, we've got Zarina, and we've got Senzo. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're okay with that.
Me, I'm fine with that. Thank you.
All right. Okay, so I've got Zarina, I've got Senzo, and then Akofa for sure, the other guests. All right, so then, a big thank you to everybody who's joined. We're going to be delving straight into the issues very soon. But before we do so, only last year, there was a report from the African Sports Center of Research Technology on the Ghana Premier League. The report really brought forth some interesting findings. I just want us to recap on it a bit. Then we proceed there. That could also guide us as into how people perceive the league in this part of the world as to whether it's going to be a local alternative or a global competitor, narrowing down to our topic that we've got today. So this is the recap of the 2021 Ghana Premier League report, which is being covered by Akofa's outfit, StarTimes, doing an incredible job with bringing the game to as many people as can see it. So some of the key takeaways, the first one here says, a high 60%, but decreased 14% of football interest among respondents, with males and millennials the most dominant of the interested group. All right, so the calculator tells us that the football is still being male biased. Now, if we move on to the second point, it said here that there's a slight decline, that is 2%, in the general awareness and more significant fall, that is 18%, in the followership of the Ghana Premier League. Not too good a news. That's the third takeaway. It says here, as it comes up, female contributes only 18% of fans who know the Ghana Premier League. That is for the third. And for the fourth takeaway, we have, having emerged as the third most supported club in Ghana in 2020, Lagos cities have drastically fallen down the pecking order to 11th in 2021. Newly promoted Royal Tamale United have taken up the third spot behind Asante Kotoko and Accra Hearts of Oak. So to the fifth point. Asante Kotoko's Brazilian playmaker Fabio Gama is the new star attraction of the Ghana Premier League, replacing Ghana's legend Asamoah Gyan, who emerged top of the respondents' choice in 2020. So moving on to the number six key takeaway. Less people, which is 34%, would choose to watch a Ghana Premier League game over the European League game, a contrast to the 2020 finding where majority of respondents, that is 56%, preferred the Ghana Premier League. Then to the seventh point. Ghana Premier League has dropped down from the 5th position in 2020 to the 6th in 2021 on the ranking of the most followed football competition in Ghana. The FIFA World Cup, 80%, and the English Premier League, 73, still top. Then to the 8th, rise in knowledge of TV broadcast and identity of broadcast channel in the Ghana Premier League games in 2022 season, I beg your pardon. A situation is also reflected in increased rating of rights holders. I think that will be good news for Akofa and StarTimes. All right, so point number 9, more people, that is 3% rise, willing to visit the stadium, that is 60%, 61%, to watch Ghana Premier League games as against following the social media, 27%, which means that the stadiums are still a very big part of how people consume our games here. All right, so a 27% decline in preference to watch the Ghana Premier League via live stream was recorded. A 13% decrease was registered in the use of social media to follow news, events, happenings in the Ghana Premier League. Again, a fall of 4% in willingness to subscribe to pay TV to access Ghana Premier League games was recorded. All right, so we've got 2 more takeaways to go, then we dive straight into our topic. So now the 11th point here says, jersey ownership, which is 54%, rose from the 3rd year running, with Kotakos 49% and Hatterfolks 29%, contributing to the most to the years to this group. However, less people, that is 27% decrease, are willing to buy a jersey of a team they did not support, although the figure still stood high at 71%. Then finally, on the key takeaways. All right, so it says here, for a 3rd straight year, an increase in the percentage of respondents who indicated they bet or have ever bet, that is 38%, on the Ghana Premier League matches was recorded. Fascinating stuff, interesting revelations there from the report that was done from the ASC. Fascinating stuff. All right, so all of this, but perhaps my guidance will give us an insight as to the subject matter we've got today, and it's on the topic, the local leagues that we've got. Is there a local alternative or a global competitor? And I'll start off with you, Senzo. I'll throw your first question to you, just to weigh what the ideas are, because you have been an incredible football administrator. So Africa is famously known for its passion for football. In fact, it is estimated that Africa has the most engaged fan base in the world, with over 3/4 of the continent's population said to be interested in sports. In the 2021 Ghana Premier League report, for example, 60% of the respondents expressed interest in football. Do you think Africa, Senzo, has exploited the opportunity enough, and why?
Thank you very much for the opportunity. First of all, I think we need to agree, this is my point, that you cannot put our league to a level where we're starting to see it as a competitor in the global space. I think we should be comfortable for now to be sitting as an alternative to what the global players are. I mean, we've got a number of reasons why one would put that proposition forward. One, it has to do with the product itself. The quality of the players, the quality of football, the quality of broadcast, the quality of marketing elements that comes with the product. Because let's not forget that people are consuming a product. In our respective countries, people have got channels that they use, or platforms they use to follow these leagues that you're talking about. So in my view, it is important to acknowledge, number one, yes, football is followed in the entire continent, but the most followed one is the one that is so lucrative, which is the European football leagues. We can name them your La Liga, your English, your Bundesliga. It's because of the product that they put out there. People are interested in the product itself. So I would not want to put ourselves under pressure to be seen as the global competitors. No, we are an alternative to what is being consumed as football worldwide. Those would be my opening remarks.
Great stuff. All right, so then let me take you straight into this one. But do you think, have you seen how African fans love, and the African Cup of Nations in Cameroon recently, they certified that the passion that Africans have got for the football. Do you think that Africa has exploited all these opportunities enough? I mean, to get the fans.
Whether we have exploited that, you have to look at that question in two ways. Number one, have we exploited it? Yes, we try in social media and other platforms whereby we are showing who we are in terms of passion. We show for our football. There was the Africa Cup of Nations, you know, that sponsor that they had with TikTok, engaging fans in terms of videos and things that they are showing around. But in terms of exploiting that, I don't think we have. I mean, we don't have money to show for it. We don't have. Yes, maybe the report might come back from the recent Cup of Nations in terms of how much money was made or how much money is made rounds in terms of the tickets sold, in terms of the entertainment, in terms of the hotels that have, posted some revenues. Maybe we can judge from there, but I don't personally think that we've exploited the love and passion that Africa has to offer when it comes to football. I can take it here to Tanzania, where football is also followed crazy. You know, I think there's more that can be done to ensure that we exploit, more than anything for me, monetary value out of the craziness and the love of the football by African football followers.
Fascinating stuff. And I did love the part where you said for you want the monetary value to reflect on how passionate the fans are. And that takes me to my next question for you, still on you, Senzo. As we know, football is largely valued on the continent. There's no doubt about it. For its fun and amusement purposes against business gains. I mean, starting with the clubs who ultimately make up the leagues. What do you think are the typical measures of a successful African club? Are the indicators that they have to measure the club between the relationship of the fans who love the game and then how much money they make from the fans who have the game?
Look, it's for me, it's a management issue, it's a structure issue, it's how you account for those members or for those fans. Number one, you know, if you cannot count it, you cannot measure it. You know, so if you don't even know that how many members you have on your database or how many fans are following you. Yes, I know that there are social media platforms that will tell you that Team X has got so many followers. That for me is supernatural because it does not give you proper value. But clubs need to have their own systems where they can pinpoint at any given time where their fans are, where their members are sitting, what age and demographics is their supporters. In that way, you can start now channeling your marketing campaigns to ensure that you extract value out of your members or fans. But by mere saying that because of the following I have on Instagram or Twitter, this is how big the club is, it does not help. We need to go back and invest heavily in ensuring that we understand who our customers are, because at the end of the day, these members and fans are our customers, you know. So for us to even begin to value this, we need to have mechanisms to be able to do that, you know, and so that when I come back to you with your organization ASC to say that these are the numbers I have, which part of demographics you want to talk to. You want to talk to the millennials, you want to talk to the over 50s, you want to talk to those that are in a city, or you want to talk to those that are close to the whatever area that they are situated. So coming back to your question, I'm saying that we need to invest properly to ensure that we understand who our customers are and where they are. Doesn't necessarily mean that the club on its own can go now and spend money on this thing. We can partner with technology providers to ensure that at least we understand who our customers are.
Interesting stuff. Brilliant stuff. All right, I'll get back to you. But now let me move to Zarina. Zarina, hi. You still there?
I'm still here.
Yeah. All right. So Africa struggles to compete with the European leagues. I mean, it's partly the struggle to compete with European leagues, partly blamed on football administrators. I mean, their view on the game as an amusement activity at the expense of business. How do you think we can switch from the amusement to business? Well, amusement is there. Now the business is important.
I mean, the amusement factor is all well and good. I think that if our administrators are actually looking at football as amusement solely, we have a problem. Simply because if you look at the sports business industry or sports industry in its entirety, we're talking about $500 billion worth of value. So that's automatically a mindset issue. I don't think necessarily that it's that, the owners are just looking at it as amusement. I think it's probably a case of, being busy with other things, other priorities. But a lot of the time, and I mean, this doesn't just apply to Africa, but a lot of the time, sports owners are people who own other businesses and other, their core interests are in other industries. So ultimately, it needs to be a mindset of sport is an investment. If you look at Citigroup, for instance, or you look at the guys who own Liverpool, a lot of them are looking at it as an investment. They're looking at the value and leveraging that value and that connection with the fan base. It's also a matter of, getting the right people involved. So it's not just looking at the ownership. And I mean, I think looking at Senzo and his club, for instance, you already got a perfect example of that, having an owner who knows the sport, but has already put in the people and the people in place for the club, where you've got the skill sets to run the club. And I think that's where African clubs generally fall short. We don't necessarily look at the entire picture. We don't necessarily have all the right people with the right skills in all the right places. The people who know how football is run, we're not leveraging that knowledge base, whether it's, looking at European clubs or looking at South America or different sports codes, for instance. So it's basically, we need to be bringing these people with that knowledge and the knowledge of the industry, how sports works, how sponsorship works, interacting with the fan base, interacting with players and what players need, what coaches need, the technical teams, bringing that to the fore and ultimately changing that mindset holistically. It's something that obviously will come with time, because it's something that's needed. I mean, you can't ignore what the sports industry is worth. And like I said, when I started, to ignore it is basically futile. The reality also is there's a lot of people that are interested in sport that want to get involved in sport. So we need to be bringing these people in as investors. There are people with money who know and are involved and are passionate enough about it. So sometimes it just means, bringing those people into those clubs and just taking it to another level using that skill set.
Fascinating, interesting take on that. Brilliant stuff. All right, so that takes me to my second question for you for the first part, before I move on to Akofa. All right, so you started on the fact that the business model, as many people who see it maybe as an alternate business, for most of these European places, they see as a project, as an investment. Now, despite the need for the focus to switch from the amusement to business in Europe, clubs such as Manchester United and Arsenal have been heavily criticized, if you like, by their fans that they are over-prioritizing the commercial gains in their operations. But how can African football clubs then carry their fans along in transitioning from going to the stadium and singing the song, or few of them chanting and sitting at home and saying, I support A, I support B, I support Young African, I support Simba, I support Orlando Pirates, I support Kotoko, and to channel all of that amusement into commercial gains, sure, by that franchise.
Yeah, no, I think Senzo basically covered that completely. It's basically looking at the research. Go do your homework, see what the fans want, look what the fans are doing, where they want to be. Are you catering to all the fans? I mean, I looked at the 18% that you raised of female fans. Why is it only 18%? How do you attract the fan base, or how do you attract female fans towards the game? What are they looking for? Are they looking at safety and security? Are they looking at, is it a family venture? I mean, looking at women particularly, that all the research shows that women are the decision makers in any household. So it's not really something that football can actually ignore. Then also looking at the clubs and where they are and being really honest about it. Look at your strengths, look at your weaknesses, look what opportunities are they in the industry, whether it's technological or otherwise. I mean, again, we can't just rely on technology. We have so many issues in Africa with, data and data costs and all of that as well. It's also just touching base and recognizing that in order to make money from a fan, you need to understand the fan and understand the emotions, because the reality is, no matter what, football is about your emotion. Every single one of us, has a story. Why did you start following a certain club? I mean, for me personally with Man United, it was basically, my father was a United fan. It was the first match I've ever went to, when South Africa came out of the apartheid era, seeing Man United at Ellis Park. That was their first connection with the game on that level. And so it's something that you carry with you. And that's something clubs have to learn to look at and understand and engage with, and understand that to connect with people and community, you need to be in touch with the people in the community. You need to be, whether you're creating programs, whether it's using an example. I went to Villarreal in 2019, and one of the most fascinating things for me was there was no burglar bars, there was no walls around the training facility, because they just welcome people into the training facility. So your fan base can come and see, they get involved, with COVID, for instance, when it was lockdown, they were getting involved with giving food parcels. They get involved with going to the old age homes, getting involved with other sports codes. There's, various high level sports stars that come into their facility to train and eat and all of that stuff. They have a facility for the academy, which is basically based in the training center, where the young guys can engage with the players from the first team. So it's simple things like that. Just looking at the whole community requirement, especially if it's a smaller club where it is very much community driven, and engaging with the fans on that level, creating that story, creating memory and opportunity for that. And that's the easiest point of connection where people will start spending money.
Great stuff. All right, so then everybody who is just joined in, if you just joined or if you have been here and you've got questions for my expert panel, please do well to drop it into that chat session. When the time is due, I'll be reading it out for them. Then you can give the answers when the time is right. And we'll open the floor as well for them to send in those questions. All right, then let me get to Akofa. You can't love what you don't see. It's difficult to, unless you've got massive faith in something. So, and that's why the games being produced on TV is important. You can't actually admire a league that you don't watch. But I want to ask, as a broadcaster, Akofa, while the clubs, to be fair, have a big role to play in connecting with their fans, a lot on which African games or leagues are available on TV for consumption is determined by broadcasting rights, as it is everywhere. But what are some of the challenges associated with securing or holding on to broadcasting rights for African leagues? And how do these affect your decision concerning securing European football rights for the broadcast in Africa, because it's business?
Thank you very much, Sitcho. I think I'll touch on a few of the challenges that we face here in Ghana. I think the key one I'd mention first is when you look at the financial demands of the rights holders of or the right owners of these African leagues, it's usually not commensurate to the product that they're offering to the broadcaster. Why do I say this? When you look at the sometimes lack of professionalism that comes with the clubs that compete in these leagues. I'll give you an example. We started broadcast of the Ghana Premier League, and as we went on, we introduced so many things that will propel the value of the league on television. We went on a spree to do some player identification for people to be able to identify the players that play in their favorite clubs and so on and so forth. Now, sometimes coming by the pictures are even a problem. They're a huge problem. You schedule appointments with some of these teams to go and do group photographs and so on, and then you get all kinds of excuses. Our jerseys are not ready. Oh, did we schedule for today? And this is such a huge challenge for a brand like StarTimes, in the sense that we have equipment that we have brought in. We have this Libro software that we're able to do all sorts of things from our studio on television for people to begin to appreciate the local league in a way that they have experienced it, on the foreign front. But the local administrators, sometimes all stakeholders, are unable to make this happen due to traditional beliefs and funny insinuations and stuff that they have concerning. This is one of the, and so when you match it with the amount of money that is being asked for as broadcast rights for the local league, then you want to say that, wait a minute, am I not better off buying, let's say, a Bundesliga? Because if I were buying a Bundesliga, I'm actually getting a clean feed. I don't have to worry myself about production because all the production has been done. And then I just plug in a feed into my system and I'm able to offer this to my audience at a fee. Over here, you are usually saddled with production as well because mostly the FAs and the, do not have the capacity to produce these games, which they would intend sell to the broadcasters. And so those are some of the challenges that we have. The other challenge is the lack of logistics. I mean, football on television should be appealing to the consumer. The experience usually is not that great because the logistics are not there. The pitches are brown. Sometimes when you go, the pitches, some of the stadia are not television friendly. Where to mount your cameras are even a problem sometimes. And so these are some of the challenges that you face, which makes you want to double think about your decision to actually acquire the broadcast rights for an African league. Yeah.
You got a very difficult job. I mean, having listed some of those challenges, it must be difficult because you want to produce it, but stakeholders are not forthcoming, the infrastructure not in place for you to send the quality that can match. I mean, what the foreign league is providing, and the viewers are looking at it and thinking that maybe the foreign league is what I want to watch. All right.
The StarTimes brand gets caught up in the middle of this. Yes. So I was saying that sometimes you get the broadcast rights brand caught in the middle of this, in the sense that you put the game on television from what in Ghana parlance would term a Sakura Park, a pitch that, that is very brown and all that. You put it on television, and then the consumer, first off, is like, wait, what is StarTimes giving me? What is StarTimes feeding me on television? This is bad, your pictures are bad, but really it is because the pitch is not television friendly. And so then you want to think about this again and be like, wait, is it worth doing this at all? Shouldn't I just get a Bundesliga, a La Liga, and, get some money and move on with my life?
Must be difficult. I see Senzo raise his hand here. I think Senzo wants to chip something. Senzo, I think this something is interesting you.
It's not interesting. It actually it hurts. Akofa as a broadcaster, people that are paying us money to survive, people that are making sure that we're able to pay our salaries. When they complain like this in platforms like this, it hurts. And I'm reminded when I was preparing for this webinar, I went through some literature review. There's a study done by A.D. Mungau, this 2016 study. One of the findings was that the African football is not neglected by fans, but by players and football governing bodies. From what you are saying, you can tell that ourselves as administrators, we've got a huge role to play in ensuring that basic things like making sure that the jersey is ready on time, the scheduling of matches is on time. There's certain things that are just tick boxes to ensure that the sponsor sees the value in spending money on you. And if I can take it back here to Tanzania, the issue of pitches is a common problem throughout the continent. However, as rights holders, it is our responsibility as well to also go beyond our clubs. There's a municipality close to you. You are using the same stadia. You are sure that on Saturday you will play there. Have a relationship. Let's find a way of maintaining a stadium. Let it be green at least. So this is a topic that, you know, I hold it very dear to my heart, because there are so many things that you can do that can enhance the products that you are giving back to these broadcasters. Because when a broadcaster talks like this, you should be worried as well yourself, Sitso, that will she continue sponsoring? Will she continue doing football? You know, African football is something that we want her to continue doing as a broadcast partner to Ghana Premier League, if I may say. So I think, yes, it is important for us to work together with people that are assisting us to have that product, so that by the time it's seen by customers elsewhere, they're not just switching off the TV and say, let me go to another channel. This is a mediocre product. That's my input.
Yeah, the concerns from Akofa these are serious concerns, and as you've highlighted it, I mean, the problem can't necessarily be all the fans always. Sometimes got to do with those who are managing the sports that the fans are going to consume. But Akofa, that takes me to your next question, Dan. And it's going to be based on the findings from ASC in their last report. So in 2021's Ghana Premier League report, it recorded that there was a 27% decline in preference to watch the Ghana Premier League via live stream, and a 4% fall in willingness to subscribe to pay TV to access the Ghana Premier League games. These falls, however, may be as a result of economic or systematic situations like increasing in the cost of living, the rising internet cost or poor internet quality, perhaps COVID. Although the research was conducted in Ghana, the outcome is likely, you know, to share the similarities with many countries on the continent. Now, leagues, African Football League's products can still be accessible to fans, despite the economic and the systematic challenges.
Thank you very much, Ticho. So I think one of the key factors that is stated in the report on there is the fact that the fall in people signing up on live stream or on pay TV is due to internet and so on and so forth. Now, what I think would help is, first of all, a critical look at the internet costs in Africa.
Your microphone is muted. If you can unmute it. All right, thank you.
Sorry about that. Yeah, so the issue of data. So internet is very expensive in our part of the world. And so I think that that's one of the things that if we are able to surmount this problem, it will help us a lot, in the sense that for StarTimes, you know, we provide the games on DVB and DTH. DVB being the box.
Could you please explain DVB, DTH? I mean, for the average listener, can you please explain what that is?
Make the game available via a set-top box or a decoder, which people access and then install, and they're able to receive the signals at home. Now that's one. And then there's also the live stream, which is available via OTT on the StarTimes On app. Now, the StarTimes On app, which does the live stream, requires, you know, the internet. And apart from having an Android phone or an iOS phone, the only other thing that is required will be internet. And so if our internet rates could go down a bit, I believe it's one way that more people would be able to access, because when you check the reports, again, there was such a sharp decline on live stream. And I believe it's because of the cost of data, which keeps skyrocketing in our territories over here. Another thing that I think could also help when it comes to us as broadcasters is that if the FAs or the club administrators or the football stakeholders could devise, you know, interesting ways of getting more sponsorships to, you know, come into the whole football ecosystem. That way, perhaps they would not over-reliant on broadcast rights fees, because when you're over-reliant on broadcast rights fees, then you raise it so high, and then the broadcaster, when they couple that with their production costs, then they can also, I mean, they would also be looking at recouping all their money, or at least a greater part of the money that they have invested in the local league. And so I think that if the whole ecosystem could be looked at, so that sponsorship, more investments will come into the local games to enable the FAs to reduce the broadcast rights fees, then broadcasters like StarTimes would also offer the games at cheaper rates for people to be able to access them easily.
Great stuff. When this webinar is done, I think the production team behind us should get some of these codes, or all of these codes out there. I think football administrators, football fans should be listening to some of this. I know maybe some of them are busy, they've not seen this, they're not here, but these codes should be going out there. They need to hear the thoughts that are coming through, because these are important details. And I love the part where if the rights holder or the associations are able to get sponsorships for their league, then the broadcast rights might not necessarily be too expensive. Then the broadcaster doesn't need to charge so much, that the consumer can have access to it. And I love that part. All right, so that is it for the first set of questions. We're going straight into the second set of questions. Please, if you just joined in, thank you very much. If you've been listening, you can then also drop questions into our comment section. We'll be glad to get to them when that time is due. So for the next batch of questions for the second round. And properties, we're talking about financial challenges, but properties like the South African Premier League, the PSL as you know it, the one in Egypt, Morocco, Tunisia, these leagues are in Africa, and they are strongly followed by their fans in their home countries. Despite the competition they also face from the European leagues. What do you think these African countries are doing differently to, you know, get their fans, even though they love the foreign leagues, to still patronize theirs?
You got cut off there a little bit, but I think I follow the question.
Oh, sorry.
Is the question to Senzo or is to Zarina?
It's to Senzo. Question is to you then, Senzo.
Oh,
yeah.
Look, I can talk from experience. You know, one of the biggest myths that we have back in South Africa is that people are going to the stadium. It's not the truth. We're still having a challenge in terms of people going to the stadiums. You know, with the success of the World Cup and the infrastructure upgrade that came with the 2010 World Cup, we find ourselves having a magnitude of stadium all over the country. You go to Johannesburg, you've got about 4 major stadiums in one province, so to speak. Also in a city, you've got about 2-3 major stadiums, which are sitting at about 60,000-65,000 capacity. So that alone, the intention was good to have a world-class stadium, but how do you fill that stadium? You know, you other than the big clubs playing each other, a derby or something like that, it's quite impossible for you to fill the stadium. You know, so what I can commend South African League, for instance, is that the product, the broadcaster has pushed the standards to a level whereby you are able to enjoy the football because the pitches are proper. The infrastructure is proper. Akofa spoke about having to struggle where you put your cameras and stuff, you know, the positioning of cameras. You know, these were things that were thought up front when they were building this stadia. So that assists in ensuring that the quality of the product that you see in terms of the football is good, but it would be even better with people coming to the stadium. I still believe that there must be more focus on ensuring that people attend their matches. Let me take it here to Tanzania. also, yes, there is challenge in terms of the infrastructure and stadium, especially when you go outside the Dar es Salaam city to go to other areas where you play matches, But the good thing is that because of the following and people coming to support football, the product itself becomes so beautiful that you want to be in Tanzania to come and see what is happening. If you recall when the COVID-19 restrictions hit and the football was put on hold, I think around 2019, 2020, somewhere there, Tanzania was the only country that was broadcasting, playing matches and carrying on with football. I think that has really made a lot of people see understand who Tanzania is in terms of football. And so when you look at those elements of people coming into the stadium, filling the stadium, creating that vibe, vis-a-vis the vibe that is artificially created at the big stadium, because now South African broadcaster, the broadcaster currently, they've come up with a very unique and very sharp strategies to ensure that you feel like the stadium is filled with people while actually it's an empty stadium. So the product for me will be something that I can say it has helped the product of football in SA. And also, yes, there is quality of football in terms of the players. And when you see the teams, how well they're doing in the Champions League, that also is an indication that even the quality of football as well has improved in the last couple of seasons.
We've seen teams like Ali, Zamalek, WAG. You competed in the Champions League. You see the quality that they've got there, especially some of these North African leagues and their teams. Do you think that they can break the barrier, and make exports the African game to the Western part of the world, other parts of the world, to compete with, the leagues that are happening there? I'm going to see how Ali, Zamalek, and the rest are playing. Do you think you can break the barrier?
I think so. I think so. It goes back to what I've been alluding to, the fact that how do we position ourselves as a league, the type of players that we are able to produce out of the same league. The Egyptian league is a well-respected, well-known, not only in Africa, but worldwide because of the players that they produce. Everybody knows who's Mo Salah. So imagine when Egypt plays Zamalek, for instance, in a derby. That derby, I'm definitely sure it's sold elsewhere. Because people are interested to know this Al Ahly that has produced a Mo Salah. That would be the same case with the big players in European leagues. In that way, because of the association of these clubs and association of players, people tend to sway towards understanding what is really happening. That means there's more Mo Salahs that can come out of this. But also when you look at the support and the enthusiasm from the fans, filled capacity stadiums with all those emotions taking place, people would want to come, or rather would want to subscribe to a maybe one-day subscription to be able to watch that couple of minutes. But I think with more effort, with more marketing strategies, I think we can bridge that gap that you are mentioning.
Thank you very much, Senzo. Hi, Zarina, you still around? It's been a while.
I'm still here.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so then I'm back to you there. Back to see some more of your thoughts. So let's get here. Again, this is coming out from the report that ASC produced. There's an estimation globally that by 2050, Africa's population will be relatively much younger than it is at the moment. So in the 2021 Ghana Premier League report, for example, millennials, that is between 25 to 34, make up almost half of the number, that is 40% of the fans who expressed willingness to watching a game via live stream, followed by the Gen X. Gen X are 35 to 44-year-old in the category with 25%. And then the Gen Z, which is 15 to 24 with 21%. Now, a major drive of the exportation of the major European leagues to Africa has been the exploitation of technology and the digital media, considering young people are gradually moving towards technology, they are technology friendly, technology savvy. How do you think African football leagues can exploit the digital and technology space to the growth of our football?
Well, I mean, I think from an African perspective, currently, the biggest challenge is, as Akofa said, the cost of data is our biggest challenge. The consistency of the internet and access to that internet is a challenge. And that's something that needs to be first taken into account. And that's something that definitely needs to happen. While we're waiting for that process to kick into place, we need to start putting the building blocks in place with the kind of people we keep bringing into the marketing teams and the communication teams and things like that. Because the reality is, once we have those issues sorted out, it's a lot easier then to stream matches. It's a lot easier to bring information to people, using the various platforms. And you do need people who are technologically savvy and people who do understand how to exploit social media and use social media to its best effect. And when I say that, I don't just mean, somebody who knows how to post because they've got like 5,000 people on their personal page, or, somebody who can grow the audience to like 70,000 or 3 million or whatever. It's a case of getting those kind of people to actually engage with you. It's a case of getting real followers and real interaction, as opposed to just growing your following base. It's that engagement factor. You want to be telling them stories that they're interested in. You want to give them the behind the scenes content, because the reality is a lot of football fans want to know what players are getting up to. At this point in time, we are currently in a position where we're struggling with the basics. So just getting information on a player, what is his full name, what's his real name, what's his age, getting the just basic images. I mean, if you want match images for goal, for instance, I mean, it's something that we struggle with across the continent. So, just getting the basics right and putting that into place means that you can then exploit at a later stage, because technology, I mean, what we discussed today is going to be so completely irrelevant by the end of the year, and that's no lie. So you do need people who know and are keeping informed and keeping in touch and staying abreast of what's going on, and then bringing all of that information in ways that the audience really wants it. And the reality is, people want information that they can't get elsewhere. It's also then partnering with the right people. So, bringing in a goal.com, bringing in a StarTimes, bringing in different, why not bring in other industry players? There's so many opportunities where you can team up with the TikTok and Facebook, but there's also opportunities where you can team up with sports codes that are not, your usual fray. So, I mean, why not team up with the cricket team? And just, do interactions and engage with people and telling them stories that are just out of the ordinary, because that matters. Giving them the profile of the players and the people behind the scenes that are bringing a match to them. But all of that's really irrelevant if you can't sort out the overall dynamic of what's going on within a club in itself.
I think one of these days we need to bring on somebody who works in those telcos to tell us how on earth in 2022 Africa still has problems with internet and why internet is still expensive in terms of data. But let's move on to the next one then. Again, back on the report, in 2021, the Ghana Premier League dropped down to 5th position from 2020 to 6th in 2021 on the ranking of the most followed football competition in the country. The English Premier League, the Spanish La Liga, all sit above the Ghana Premier League. A unique advantage of African football leagues in the battle with the major European leagues is that the local African culture. How do you think, innovation can be combined with local African culture to create a unique selling brand to grow and maintain a strong domestic fan base?
I mean, it still goes back to basics. We need to make sure we're getting the basics right. We have quality footballers. The whole continent is, there's just so many of them to be found, but we are not developing those footballers on our own property. We're not developing them to the proper levels that we should be developing them in Africa. We are not making use of sports scientists. We're not making use of sports psychologists. We are not making use of proper physiotherapists. Sometimes we just have a friend who happens to, do a 6-month course and we think that's enough. We are not enforcing, discipline at a younger level. We're not teaching them the technical and tactical aspects or all the dynamics that makes football important and attractive. So we need to get that right. Once we've got the pieces of the football right, it's a lot easier then to develop a product that people want to be engaged with. And I mean, like both Senzo and Akofa said, there's so many different challenges that we are facing at the moment, whether it's, the quality of the infrastructure. I mean, the reality is we do need that kind of infrastructure where you can present a really cool package, whether it's on social media or whether it's on broadcast or whatever. So we do need to get our infrastructure right. We need to get the people right. We need to get the skills in the right places, the right people, the right skills. All of that needs to come right first before we can then go elaborate and start capitalizing on innovation. At this point, tragically, it feels like innovation is actually the basics for an African kind of space. But we have the skill set all available. I mean, there's multiple people across the continent who have studied various degrees and courses and have so many different experiences that, can offer so much. And then again, it just comes down to just putting all the right pieces in the right ways. And, then it's easier to capitalize and, make use of your social media, put documentaries together around teams and what they're all about. Bringing in kids, we keep forgetting the element of kids because they are the next fan base. They are the next generation that
Absolutely.
will just make a big difference. So we need to bring kids closer to the game. We need to give them those experiences. And I mean, that sounds very simplistic, but it's probably one of the most important things that we're kind of lacking. Team up with universities and schools, create those opportunities. The rest of innovation comes in after you put the building blocks, and that's the only way we can actually move forward.
Some way to go as far as pushing that game there to go, but it's still very doable. It's the more reason why I think after all of this, I'm going to write a whole piece about what I've learned here today, and I hope that as many influencers or many influential sports administrators out there could see this and, of course, learn a lot from what we've gathered on this webinar. It's been so refreshing to get these thoughts coming across from you, Zarina, from Senzo, and, of course, Akofa, who I'm going to get to for her second set of questions. All right, so Akofa then. You there? Hello? Yeah, I see you. Yeah, great. All right, so in 2021, the Ghana Premier League report. Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear. Yeah, great. So in 2021, the Ghana Premier League report said 39% of its respondents indicated that they would prefer to watch, the European leagues as compared to the Ghana Premier League. Some of them were actually undecided. Now, how do you think that African football leagues can begin to stand out and become increasingly appealing to fans despite the strong presence of the foreign European leagues in their countries? What parts does scheduling of matches, which includes the date, the kickoff times, have to play in any of this?
Thank you very much, Ticho. So for me, I think that the African leagues can compete globally because we have proven time and again that we have the talent. Evidence is that you see all these African players who dominate the foreign leagues that people prefer over the local ones. And so we have the talent, we have the passion. What we lack is the economic prowess. And so for me, I think that if we get support from government and corporate bodies, that will so very much curtail the exodus of players that we see, particularly in the Ghana Premier League. From government, I think that when they begin to provide tax reductions of some sort for brands or corporate bodies who invest in football, then people will begin to want to look into that direction. If a club is low on cash or the investments, and so they are unable to pay their players well, like we see in the Ghana Premier League, some of the salaries of some of the players are very low, and so you find them running off anywhere at all at the sound of, let's say, $50,000, and then they're gone, you know, and we see a lot of that, which is not very good for our local game here. Someone mentioned, I think it was Senzo who mentioned the Egyptian league. If we all look at, you don't see too many of the Egyptians in the, you know, other foreign leagues per se, because their league is good, they pay their players better, and so on. And so for me, I think that if we're able to get the corporate bodies also to come in, sponsor some of these clubs, get title sponsorship for the FAs, and more money comes into the game, the clubs are able to turn things around, they're able to pay the players well, then the players will stay, and then we will begin to see some good fortunes for the local league here as well. In terms of the match schedules, I think that, they could be altered, but not entirely. I say this because just last season of the Ghana Premier League, the 2020-2021 season, there was a headline. It was a match between Accra Hearts of Oak versus Kotoko. Now, that game was so big because for we at StarTimes, we put in a lot in terms of marketing the game and that particular fixture. And so we got a lot of key opinion leaders to say stuff about the game, push it, you know, aggressively marketed that particular game. And for that day, I think there was an EPL game that almost went unnoticed. And so these are the telltales that tell you that if the game is marketed aggressively and then all the economic prowess that is needed is made available, the Ghana Premier League or any local league in Africa for that matter can, you know, stand on its feet and compete with the others globally.
Okay. Now, it has also been suggested, Akofa, that it's somewhat simplistic, but in some parts of Africa, for example, Ghana, the level of the foreign football league content on local television should be restricted. What is your assessment of that thought?
I don't think restriction is a solution. I mean, in this day and age, I can have access to whatever league I want to watch in the palm of my hand. You know, on a device somewhere, on an app, I can watch the EPL, I can watch the Bundesliga, or whatever it is that I want. So restricting access to foreign leagues on local free-to-air stations is not the solution. I will still go for aggressive branding of the local leagues. If the leagues are branded properly and marketed properly and made accessible to the local people, I think that would help. Restricting foreign leagues, I don't think it will help anybody in any way. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I think this is where, if it was a seminar where we were there in person and the crowd was there, I was going to say, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of the second session of the questions. So give our panel, expert panel, the round of applause, and it would have been applauded massively, I can imagine, because of the insight that you've brought to bear, Akofa, Zarina, and Senzo. It has been fascinating to be in your midst, to actually learn so much from the experience that you have on the African game and how you can compete or be an alternative to the foreign leagues. Having discussed all of this and having assessed all the problems that we've got, weigh the African League up against the foreign league, I've got one final question. And that question then is going to go for all of you, but I have you take one after the other. I'm going to start. I'm going to have the take of Akofa first. I'll go to Zarina, then I'll end up with Senzo before our audience get in to ask their questions. So this is the question that is going to be generic to all of you then. So in the wake of the obvious economic and systematic African challenges and the greater economic power and current high appeal and command for the major European leagues, should African leagues continue to compete in the hope of someday becoming powerful brands? Or should they rather build a unique market niche where they can present their brand of football as a special alternative formulated on local culture and innovation, and that which can still be consumed as such despite the high presence of European leagues in these African countries? So that very much goes back to our topic. And I guess the answer we are seeking is, should African leagues be local alternatives, or global competitors? Akofa, you first.
Thank you very much, Ticho. So for me, like I said earlier, I have seen a local league in the Ghana Premier League that almost made an EPL game, non-existent. And so I believe that it boils down to developing our own marketing and brand accessories, for our local leagues. And also for like the foreign businesses to fit in. I mean, they're already here enjoying a share of the economic penetration and they keep exporting our players, to make their games greater. And so if there's a way the football administrators, the FAs, the club owners can begin to see this as a business. You see, I mean, the football ecosystem in Ghana, Africa, has been more of the desire, the passion, and an ultimate escape route from poverty. And so sometimes when you deal with some of the local clubs in Ghana, for instance, there's a way they look at sponsorship. They look at sponsorship as though you're giving alms to them. And so when you want your benefits for the sponsorship you're giving them, it becomes, but we thought you were helping us and so on. They need to move beyond, the talents, the passion, and the desire. It's a business. So if they can embrace that, get all these brands marketing people that they need on their team, propel the club out there. If a sponsor is coming to you, you should be able to tell the sponsor what they stand to gain when they invest in your football club. Other than that, people will keep on shying away from the local game and looking elsewhere where it's all done beautifully. But it can be done here. I believe that with the help of government and support from our corporate bodies and the reorientation of our football administrators and so on, I think we'll be able to get somewhere. Again, I think that sometimes our local people, we're so overly dependent on things that are foreign. So when I joined StarTimes and we started the Ghana Premier League, I get to hear some club names and I'm like, why is this club called How do we have this preference of foreign things, and then we actually look at ourselves, everything that is local African is inferior, so if it must go global, we must attach some foreign name to it and so on. I think if our club owners will begin to have this kind of orientation and, believe that our game can stand the test of time and become as big as it is in the, on the global market, I think that we'll begin to get somewhere with this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Akofa. Thank you, and thank you again. So, sorry, everyone. We spoke about internet. Sorry, everyone. We spoke about internet, and here I am. I just got frozen out. Unreliable internet in this part. Sorry. Okay, good to be back again. Senzo, can you hear me? And Zarina, you still there?
Oh yeah.
It's not hard. Only 2 seconds ago, and here we are. All right, Zarina. So that I want to have your take on it. On the answer to our broad question. Global competitor or local alternative?
Look, I mean, the reality is it's going to take some time to reach the global competitor level. We're seeing that evidence with South Africa in the PSL, because that by 5, I look at just the numbers from a goal perspective, that supersedes the international football market drastically. If I look at the East African market as well, I mean, there's a lot more balance between the EPL, for instance, and the local leagues. So it's definitely possible. It's just a matter of, can we be consistent? Can we make sure that we are looking at it as a business? And not just any business. I mean, football business is a unique entity. We need to stop looking at it, as an amateur hour thing, and we need to stop looking at it as a traditional business model. So we do need to look at it from a business of sport perspective. We do need to engage a lot more with our fan bases and communicate and understand what they want and how they want it. We need to develop a product that is very consistent in our delivery and in the packaging as well. Because for me, as a sponsor, if we're not achieving this consistency, as we've seen, there's been so many situations. I mean, Akofa again has raised it where players are not getting paid, or there's been situations where leagues are being called off because of, political influences or challenges because of money or whatever the story is. As a sponsor, my first question is, okay, but am I going to get the value for it? Am I going to, get the consistency out of it? Is there going to be growth? So even as a sponsor, you want that package that's going to work for me. It needs to be consistent. Sponsors also need to be educated, in terms of what they can do, what they can't do, because there's just so much that they can look at. And in Africa, from what I've seen and experienced firsthand, a lot of it is still very old school. So even the sponsors need to be educated and upskilled in how to approach sponsorship and marketing. But once we get that, and, again, very possible, we've got the skill sets, we've got the knowledge, we've got the passion, we've got all of that stuff. It's just a matter of putting it all together and developing a really solid package and delivering it consistently to compete in that market. But for now, I think it's very much, let's create the product, let's market it to the people that need it most and that are most passionate about it. And then we can start thinking more on a global level.
Thank you, Zarina, and to Senzo. What are your thoughts on that? Global competitor, local alternative. What would you want to make your club? You want to make your club a competitor of Real Madrid, Barcelona, Bayern Munich, or you want to make it a local alternative to the people of Tanzania?
I think my opening remarks were very clear that it is my firm belief that like Zarina is saying, to take us time. I like to use the phrase process. Everything is a process. We need to take care of our house first. We need to ensure that we've got a product, number one, that we can sell. We have a product that we can market. For us to be able to do that, Sitso and the rest of the colleagues, we need to acknowledge that football business has changed. We need to also innovate as administrators of football. I cannot be a CEO and be expected to market the game, be expected to be busy with marketing campaigns. I need to make sure that I've got professionals who are trained to be able to come and advise me. CEO, in the coming 3 months, we've got a change taking place. Our view is that let's take this particular route to ensure that we keep our funds engaged, we keep money rolling in, so we need experts to assist in running our football. It's no longer just like colleagues have said, a pastime activity. It is a business. If someone is giving you money, they expect something. Akofa has spoken about a cap in hand, going to a sponsor and said, can you assist me? No, you need to be boldly going there that me, I'm young Africans, I've got 5.6 members, here is my data, what is it that you are able to offer for me, then they must fight for that particular database, and also what is it that you are doing that attracts a sponsorship, so it is very, very important to acknowledge the fact that we need to sort our house first, ensure that we are standing firm on our feet, and we've got something to take to the sponsors. Then maybe we can start talking about competing in the international stage. I mean, really, to be honest, I mean, if we do a proper research in terms of the structure even of our teams, even the new the licensing regulations that have been put forward by CAF, can we really take and say that how many teams are submitting the audited financial statements? How many teams have got a proper office whereby they can run a proper organization? These are for me, infant process stages that we need to start at to ensure that when we are strong there, we can move to other bigger things. So my view, I still believe that we'll, for now, be good alternatives than being global players, maybe at a later stage. I don't know how this new proposed African Super League will also play in the mix of everything, you know. So there are so many things, but I still believe that it starts at the club level, it goes to a national level or a premier professional league to ensure that we sort ourselves out so that people who've got money can take us serious. Thank you.
And thank you too very much. All right, so that completes the second set of questioning. And now we are on to the open floor. All right, so what will happen is if you want to say something, you want to ask a question and you want to question any of my expert panel today, just show by hand. I've got a team in behind the door, the back door. They'll pop you up. You get your mic on, you ask the question and they'll attend to it. So we've got an opportunity for 3 people to ask their questions and then we move on from there. Anybody? And if you want to, otherwise, you can also drop the question into the comment section. I'll just go into the chat right now and see what you've got there. Okay, no questions in there yet. I guess that is how clear my panel have been today. Personally, I've absolutely understood a lot of the things or all the things they said. I wouldn't be surprised if nobody has any understanding of what we've communicated today. All right, so Kunle has a question for us. Kunle, can you unmute yourself and, throw the question on? Let me know who you want to answer the question, or if it's all 3 of them, you can go on. Kunle, please unmute yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Sitso. Sorry, good afternoon, everyone. It's been a very enlightening session from all the panelists, and it's been mind-blowing, all the information that is being shared here. But sorry, but mine is not a question per se, but it's just probably something that I think I want to add to what has been said. So I don't know if I can. So it's more of like a comment. No, I don't know if I can, if I have.
Sure, go on.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Yes. So, okay. Thank you very much.
You got a minute to share your thoughts.
Okay, sure. I'll do that. So what I just wanted to say is, I know we've been asking that should African leagues be an alternative or global competitor. What I will say is, let us make it our own thing first. The Premier League and all these foreign leagues are going to be there. But let us try to make it our own thing in a way of, let's try to appreciate it first. I think if we appreciate what we have in our local league, I think other things that have been discussed in terms of making it a business will make it possible. But that's where the problem is. We don't really get to appreciate what we are doing here. I make an example for Nigeria, where I am in. We don't really get to appreciate what is being done locally. We just look ahead to the bigger picture. But you need to start from the base first before you say you are looking ahead. So that's what I just wanted to say. Let's make it our own. This is what is obtainable in places like Egypt, the North African leagues, even Brazil, Argentina, who we know that their players have produced the bulk of the world's best players. You look at Major League Soccer. You see the Premier League is trying to penetrate into the United States, all these other leagues, but you can see what they are trying to do with their league at first. They want it to be attractive to their audience first. They want them to appreciate it before you say we are going to, the Premier League and all. The same thing in a place like Canada that is opening up already. So that's what I just want to say, that let's try to appreciate what we have on ground first before we say that, we want to make it into this. Because if we don't do that, any efforts we want to do in saying we want to make it, we want to create a business model and all of this will not be in place. And when I say appreciating it, this is something that has to be in the minds of the administrators, the fans, the journalists, and all the necessary stakeholders. Without it, it is going to be very difficult if we do not appreciate what we are doing in our local with our local football. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kunle. Thank you, absolutely. Thank you for that. Thank you so much for being part of it. Also, but we need to, of course, appreciate what we are doing. All right, so there's Kabelo Bosillon. Kabelo Bosillon, I hope I got the name right. Forgive me if I didn't get the pronunciation correct, but you can then unmute yourself and throw your question in, or perhaps drop your suggestion.
Good afternoon. How are everyone doing?
Kabelo?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, thank you for coming. Good afternoon. You have the mic for 1 minute.
I just want to, first of all, thank you for this great platform and interesting discussion. It's right up my alley, and I want to say hello to the panelists, the guests. I know two of them very well, so thank you for your contributions. I think this question that you've raised in this platform is an interesting question, but I think, as many of the panelists have said, we need to go back to basics with a lot of things that we do. I'm a club licensing instructor for CAF, so I get to see a lot of the clubs. I'm a general coordinator. I interact with a lot of the clubs on the continent. And I think one of the main things that's a big challenge for clubs in Africa is the fact that a lot of clubs are member associations. Basically, they are either owned by, your defense force or your police or your, petrol company or your. So it's very difficult to have a commercial or act as a commercial entity when the club is not a commercial entity itself. How do you, as a defense force team, go and attract supporters, So we need to get away from that historical kind of aspect where clubs were formed because, you had those institutions in place in countries, and they have not, the clubs themselves have not upgraded or have not improved the standards of how they operate commercially, because it's very difficult to get investors to invest in a defense force team. It's very difficult. So for clubs to be commercially viable in the African continent, we need to treat them as commercial entities, and they need to, number one, be commercial entities. So we can't now want to do commercial things, but the core essence of the club is not commercial. So that's a lot of the fights that are happening across the continent in terms of people investing money in clubs, but they don't really own the clubs. So they're like, why should I invest money in clubs if I don't really own the club? Okay. And it gets into a problematic area or state, because fans and supporters and members want the club to be commercially viable. But at the end of the day, the investors putting a lot of money in the club, but they don't actually own the club. So we need to now change that and turn it upside down to say, if we want to be commercial entities, or we want to run football as a commercial business, then our clubs need to act in a commercial way. They need to have proper corporate governance. And as Senzo mentioned, club licensing. Club licensing is a very important tool that is utilized in Europe, and that's basically the clubs utilize club licensing to get to where they are. And we as Africans are taking our time in terms of implementing club licensing at its fullest degree. So I think we need to start with the basics, as what a lot of people have said, and from there, then we can start growing and not to compete against the Europeans, because we've got our own flavor, we've got our own way of how we can communicate with our supporters. And another aspect as well, which is also very important, is my personal opinion is that I feel that a lot of our administrators are competing with players. Supporters know more administrators in Africa than they know players of teams, which for me, we've got to change that dynamic. Stars should be the players of clubs. I see a lot of club Instagram pages where, they're posting the next match with a player on, but they don't even tag the player. The player's on Instagram, but they don't even tag the player. Simple things like that. We need to start making the players the stars of the show, because at the end of the day, if we don't treat the players as the stars of the show, then we don't have a product. We do not have a product. When I travel around to the different stadiums, I always see majority of the stadiums, the VIP areas in the stadium are much better taken care of than the dressing rooms. And that tells you something. That tells you that who's really important.
The stars are the big men who came to the stadium.
Who's really important? Exactly.
On the pitch.
So we need to address those issues, and then we can start tackling the other major issues.
All right, thank you very much, Cabello. That was insightful as well. Brilliant stuff from you. Thank you for your contribution. Thank you for your thoughts. Okay, so I'll pick a final question or contribution from the audience before I take the final. This was supposed to be a 90 minutes webinar. As you know, football is a 90-minute sport. So if a few times, I think we'll end after 90 minutes. So if there's one more question or one more contribution from the audience, I'll take it. Otherwise, then I'll just move straight into getting the final thoughts or the final words from my brilliant panel today. Zarina, your final thoughts and your final words.
I think.
Teacher, I had a question, or you missed me. I think in my hand up.
Ruben asked a question.
Ruben has been raising his hand throughout Sito.
Ruben, please go ahead. Ruben, please go ahead. Sorry.
Thank you. Well, I had a question for Senzo and Akofa. Senzo made a very key point, a very important point. He talks about fans having neglected the game. It is the players and the government. And my question to you both was, how important is relationships? How important is relationships when it comes to football, when we talk about football and the government? Because maybe Akofa, you remember this. When I look at Ghana, I don't know about other countries, but when I look at Ghana, we don't seem to have a good relationship with the government. There's always a situation where it is other entertainment sectors that have a better relationship. So, for instance, when Despite had his party, his 60th birthday, there was no football person in there. When the president is doing some form of event, how many football people do we see there? But then I don't mean to compare, but when you compare to other countries, like Barack Obama had a party, there was NBA players there. There was other sports personalities there. Whenever a government official in other countries have an event, you see sports personalities. But in Ghana, it's more like only the musicians, the actors. So they are able to get these sponsors very easy. But what is it about us football that we don't get that relationships? I wanted to know are those relationships important in helping us? Because at the end of the day, if the government has $70 billion free right now, I believe the music industry and the movie industry will get a chunk of it. And we might not have it because we are not a priority. It's our relationship with the government, because they are the best people who know the sponsors. They will lead us with the rich folks. Is it important that we have a better relationship with the government or not? I'm asking Senzo as well, because he made a very important point about the relationship between the government and the sport.
I'll go first. First of all, we also need to understand, I always pose this question that what business are we in as football? Are we in an entertainment business? Are we in an events business? Are we in a betting business? Are we in a broadcast business? I think we are a combination of all those things. I think the relationships with government are so important. Majority of the clubs in African leagues don't even own any piece of land or stadia for that matter. These are the facilities that are owned by government. That's where we start. We need this relationship. Number one, to be given an opportunity to play at these stadia, and we can assist government to better manage those stadia going forward. Also, we are the ones through this establishment of having a president, having a chairman. These are political heads that their sole function, in my view, is to entrench this relationship with people like people who are in government. Even we take things very things for granted. Even when the legislation is passed, we need to have an input in terms of how is that going to shape our business going forward. So it's very important that sports people, not only football, are very close to government so that they understand that football and sports in general has got a value to play, and also it must be listened to. So it's very important before we even get any favors or any support from government to understand that these two entities need to coexist and work together for the development of the particular industry. In this case, it's football. So I really think that it's very important. People must make effort to ensure that these relationships are kept, and then we are able to move forward. I mean, Akofa can attest to this. I mean, if government goes and passes a legislation that bars us from having a relationship with a commercial broadcaster, they only pushing us to free to air, I mean, our business will be finished. So it is important for us to have the relationship with government and ensure that this business and the ecosystem around football is something that is valued by both government and its people.
I totally agree with Senzo. Relationships are important. I mean, in every industry, it's not just for football or the football territory. I think that for Ghana, largely, this relationship has sometimes been marred with corruption allegations. I mean, we all remember the ANAS and so on. And I think that perhaps that's one thing that we need to find a solution to. Aside that, I mean, the politicians and government, they patronize our games, even though, like you rightly mentioned, I also did not see any football people at Despite's party, like you mentioned. But I think when it comes to the actual game and the football itself, yes, we've seen for last season, the Hearts Kotoko game, we had legislators tweeting about the Hearts Kotoko game. We saw them in the stadium and so on. But I think that a lot more should be done to strengthen the relationship between the whole football body and government, so that they will be able to help us with policies that will, push government to support the local league. And, like I mentioned earlier on, some of these things will begin to, help us stop the exodus of players. Because if government comes in with some form of module or mechanism that will invest in the game and get club administrators to be able to pay their players a lot well, then, the players will not leave. They will stay a lot longer in the game and be able to improve it. So yes, I agree. The relationship with government is very, very much important.
All right, so thank you very much, Akofa. Thank you very much, Senzo, as well. The main problem we spoke about, the internet still gave up on me a couple of minutes ago. Happy to be back. Anyways, then, so quickly, then we'll move on and take the final words from you as a panel before we run out of here. We are into injury time now, stoppage time. So, Zarina, I'll start with you. Your final words.
I think we've got an opportunity to look at football as a blank canvas, and I know this doesn't sound very optimistic to some, but it just means that it just gives us an opportunity to just really start from scratch, start from the foundations. I mean, Kobelo and Kunle made some really good points there as well. And yeah, we just got this really amazing opportunity where we can literally start from scratch and create this entirely dynamic, fast-paced product, which actually caters to our market in all the most interesting ways. And best part is we can learn from all the mistakes that all the other leagues have made globally. And just, we can create something really, really amazing, really beautiful, and take African football really to another level. But again, it just comes down to let's get our basics right.
Thank you very much, Akofa. Your final words.
Great, thank you. So my final words, I think that all football stakeholders, especially in Ghana and Africa as a whole, should begin to purposefully look at, aggressive marketing of the local league, holistically, to fans, to, the club administrators must, see this as a business. The FA must also do the needful. Everything, everybody has to be touched. When you come to Ghana and you look at the fan base, the football people, the fans are still not very conversant with the idea of paying to watch television. Their reason is just that, but we used to watch this for free. Why do we have to pay for it now? But they forget that if we want to improve the game, the clubs must make some money, the administration must make some money to be able to pay referees and so on. But they are very adamant, they just want to watch the game for free. Some will argue that, okay, if you want us to pay, then make the game better. But how are they going to make the game better without the money that the broadcast rights holders are offering, And so all of these things must be discussed. People must be educated. Even journalists sometimes are clueless when it comes to the breakdown of some of these things. And so this is something that should be looked at holistically to propel the game, in Africa. Thank you.
Thank you to Akofa and to Senzo now. Your final take.
Thank you very much. Let me also send my appreciation to the panel and everybody who's joined us on this webinar. These are platforms that assist us to move football forward. These are platforms that remind us why we are in this game. We can learn from each other and find ways to improve the product. So my final remarks are that we should continue engaging. We should continue to exchange. However, the basics are very, very, very important. Get experts or get people who know what they're doing in the right positions. Let people that are capable of doing the job to assist the clubs to move forward. Gone are the days whereby we can just come from nowhere just because we've been in football for 20 years, then we're just given an opportunity to work in a football club. We're not getting rid of those people. We need them in football. However, for the business of football to move forward, we need people who know what you're talking about. I mean, Kabelo spoke about a number of issues. One main issue that I spoke about is about the entities now become commercial. So even the approach must be commercial. Right people must come in to take the football forward. If clubs are able to go and pay for coaches who are on UEFA A licenses or CAF A licenses, they should do the same with people that are managing their club. So with those few words, I'm saying that let's be encouraged. It must not stop here. It must continue so that our football and our leagues locally can be better. Asante.
Thank you very much, then. And so I want to say a very big thank you to everybody who joined the webinar today. The expert panel was the head of marketing in StarTimes, Mrs. Akofa Djankui Banson. And I also had here the head of operations, GoAfricaGo.com, Zarina Bahdur. And I had the CEO of Young Africa, as they call Yanga ASC, Senzo Mbatha. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your expert thoughts on the subject matter. On the subject was Africa Sports Center of Data Research and Technology, who presented a topic which was very intriguing on African leagues, a global competitor or local alternative. We did learn a lot more will be coming because this is going to be recorded and posted on our YouTube channel. So anybody can visit it at any point in time to get the insights that we got here from this webinar. And a lot of other news articles will be coming off. Please do follow the ASC on social media in African Sports Center for Data Research and Technology on Facebook. It's ASC Afro on Twitter. You can also follow their statistics handle at AfroStats also on Twitter and get all the information we've got for you on African football and beyond. And there's plenty more count them. Thank you very much, Espana. Thank you very much, all everybody who contributed, everybody who joined to play a part. There will still be more come from ASC. It is bye from me and from the team. It is have a wonderful evening. And as I always say, Yanga Dogo, Godo, because it's an African thing. What that means is that we will surely meet again. Thank you very much, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Bye.